Hello everyone. Let's begin with the sixth chapter called International Problems. In this chapter we will discuss about the problem that are faced by most of the nation of the world. Like there are so many problems like terrorism, corruption, poverty are the today's biggest problem. Even the environmental degradation and the global warming also faced by most of the nation. So in this chapter we will discuss what are the measures to prevent this, what are the different countries working on to these issues, and how we all can be able to cope with this problem. So if you remember, in the last few chapters, this is our sixth chapter. In the last five chapters we had learned about in the first chapter we had learned about the international systems, where we had seen all the nation cooperate each other. None of the countries are self-dependent, they need to support each other. In second chapter we had learned about the foreign policy. Foreign policy plays a very important role to build a relation between the nation. Even in third chapter we had learned about the India's defense system. And in fourth chapter, we had learned about the United Nations, a world's largest organization that work for the welfare of all the nation and always tries to make a friendly relation among the nation. And in the last chapter, in the fifth chapter, we had learned about the relation of our own country from the different nations of the world, and we had seen India being a peaceful nation, always try to build a good relation with neighboring countries and the countries those who are far away from us. So in this chapter we will discuss about the international problem. So when we are saying, or when we are discussing about the international problem, it means it is not the problem of a single or any multiple countries, but most of the countries. So just we had seen few topic like terrorism, corruption, global warming, environmental degradation. These are the few issues that are faced by most of the nation nowadays. So let's begin with the chapter and discuss the topic that we will try, or all over the world the people or the government or the authorities are trying to manage such situations. So till the last chapter we studied the Soviet states in the international system, India's foreign policy and India's defense system. We also studied the objectives of the United Nations. Objective means the aim. We know what are the aims of United Nations. In this chapter we are going to study some important international problems. Some problems are not restricted to any one country. So there are so many problems that are restricted to only one or particular nation. Like for example, the tension, the problem between India and Pakistan is the problem between only these two nations, right? It can't be considered as an international problem. But there are so many issues that relates with the international problems. They affect many countries and eventually all the countries of the world. These problems that affect the whole world are called the international problem. So problem that affects almost every nation or almost the whole world, that are called as the international problems. In order to solve these international problems, all nations need to make joint effort. And since it is a problem of most of the countries, so one or two country can't able to manage such situations. So it require a joint effort. It require a teamwork where almost every nation should come together and they find a solution to fight this issue. In this chapter, we shall therefore study problem related to human rights. It is also a big issue, environment and terrorism. So there are so many topic needs to be covered in this chapter, but important topic being the human rights, environment and terrorism. If a person is safe, if a person feels safe in their own nation, then that nation is considered as a progressive nation. If the person is not feeling safe, or the citizens are not feeling safe in their nation, so how we can judge the development of the country? So every nation or every country should work on the human rights or human development. So it is also a very important task that needs to be clear out, or that needs to be followed by every nation. Even the questions of refugees are now assuming global proportion. Hence, we shall consider this issue as well. Even the problem of refugees. What exactly the refugee mean? Refugees are those people who are forced to leave their own nation. When we use the word forced, force means they are not willing to live their own land. They are forced to live their own land, maybe the reason of any kind of war or any kind of natural calamity or any kind of change in democracy or in any political decision. So none of the people would like to live their own country, but in for the survival or to protection of their family, people need to take such kind of hard decision where they decide to live their own land. Such people are called as refugees. We had seen the problem of refugee at that time. The nearby country helps those people to make the arrangement of their living, to make the arrangement of their food, even for the arrangement of job and education. So this also creates a burden on those country that supports the people that came from different nation. So today refugees also been a very big challenging task for the global problem. Let's begin with the human rights. When we talk about the human rights, since we are human, we are been given these certain rights, right? Like we always say na, right to vote, right to education, right to speak, right to move anywhere in the country. So these are the rights that given by our own constitution to the citizen of our India. In this way we can pick up any job, any education, even we can take up any religion. So this is our own right. Imagine if someone restrict your right, what you will feel, or what kind of situation it had created. In so many countries, even in the democratic country also, people don't have their own rights. There are so many countries, I'm not blaming any country, just for the example. If you take the example of China, China is also a democratic nation, right? But there you don't have such kind of freedom, or you don't have the such kind of right. They are ruled by the different purpose, or they have the different systems. So in this way people can't justify their rights, or they can't demand for their rights. The concept of human rights has emerged from the concepts of natural rights. From birth itself, it's our own right. Being a human, we are being eligible for the human rights, or for our own identity. Natural rights are those rights that we endow with because we are born as human beings. What are endowed? Endowed means, you can say, gifted. We are provided, right? For example, in our country, each and everything is followed by the constitution, and it is clearly mentioned in the constitution what are the rights are given to the people, and what kind of benefits will be given to the citizen. So in this way, directly, if you are born in India, I'm just taking the example of India, every country have their own rights or own system. If you're born in India, then these rights are by default will be added to your what you can say, in your life, or you can be in your professional field, or in your educational field. So the these natural rights are those rights that are endowed with because we are born as human being. In the same vein, human rights are those rights that are necessary for living as a human being and as a constituent of society. So being a member of society and being a human being, we are endowed with the right, and we have to follow this right. The American and French revolutions proclaimed. What do proclaim? Proclaim means declared. The American and we had seen, remember, if you remember, in 8th standard we had learned about the American War of Independence, or we can also learn about the French Revolution. The word liberty, equality, fraternity, we had been seen during the time of French Revolution, where the common people raised their voice against the kingdom, where they had given the statement that being a human, it's our duty, it's our responsibility to get our own right. So such kind of things that happened in past, or they which are in history, happened in history, but today also they made an impact. Their values are still alive. The American and French Revolution proclaimed. Proclaim means declared. It has there a declaration of liberty, equality, fraternity, and justice as human right. So every citizen are bound to it. The idea that in order to realize this right, a democratic form of government is essential was strengthened. And to get this right, to have these facilities, we should all have a proper democratic government. Our democracy should be strengthened. Like we had taken an example of America, India, France. These are the country where they have a powerful democracy and people enjoys their right. But in countries like Pakistan or China, even we had taken a great example of North Korea. These countries are also the democratic nation, but they are not following the democracy at a complete level. European, after that, several European nations adopted democracy, constitution, and government. Today, almost every nation is a democratic nation, but only few countries are following the democracy in a complete manner, in a complete true sense. This brought limits on the authority of the state. The main responsibility of the state come to be understand to be the protection of citizens' right. So it is very much important that the government should protect the citizens' right, and they should have a system where citizens' rights should not be harmed. Right. For example, we will come through the topic. In our India, we have the Human Protection Act to protect the human right. For that purpose also our constitution has made a act, because government has declared us the certain rights. What happened if we are not getting that right? If someone had creating any restrictions to get us the right, then action will be taken against those society, those authority, or those people also. So in this way, it's a responsibility of the government, it's a responsibility of the state or the management that had declared their rights to the citizen. Rise of the concept of human rights in international relations. After the United Nations was established, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was prepared. It was adopted in the United Nations General Assembly by a majority vote on 10th of December 1948. As we all know, United Nations is a platform where all the country met together and they can discuss on their issues, or they can also give such a kind of suggestion. So on the basis of that, on 10th of December 1948, a declaration has been done for the human rights. Later in 1966, the United Nations General Assembly adopted the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, in short ICCPR, and the Internal Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, ICESCR. These two covenants are a part of international law. Covenants, you can say, a kind of agreement, a kind of declaration which can be followed by all the nation, those who are member. If United Nations declares any new decision or they give any point, that needs to be followed by all the member nation. These two covenants are a part of international law. Member nation of the United Nations are bound to observe them. Right. Human rights include the important rights to life, food, clothing, shelter, education and health. The state has to see to it that these rights are available to everybody. So it is a responsibility of the government that these rights should be availed, these rights should be used, or these rights are getting to all the persons of the society. The questions of human rights was raised in United Nations General Assembly on several occasions during the Cold War period. Even at the time of Cold War, there are so many questions has been raised on this basis, like racial segregation. What is racial segregation? Racial segregation means differences based on the race, on the color or the community. These things was happened in past in countries like America, Africa, even in India also. During the time of Britishers, the Britishers are called as the white people and Indians are called as the black people. Even if Indians are fair, they are also called as the black people, because there was a racial segregation between the community, or you can say a race. Racial segregation in Africa was said to be against human rights, and hence it was decided to boycott the regime there. Freedom for colonies and insistence on the democratic system could be cited as an example of the same. In modern times, problems like struggle against racism, border disputes, terrorism are jeopardizing human rights on a large scale. Jeopardizing means creating problem or issues to the human right. So these are the things that hamper the human rights, like border disputes, terrorism, racism. They needs to be completely removed, completely thrashed. Then people should enjoy their freedom, enjoy their liberty. Apart from this, the concept of human rights has broadened due to several issues of global nature, like contagious diseases, the threat to environment, natural disasters. Even such issues, natural calamities also hampers the human rights, because every citizen has the right to get the protection, or they should get a proper medical facility. But at the time of any pandemic, any spread of any contagious disease, these things shouldn't be avoided by all the members of the society. Human rights today also include goals like protection of the environment and sustainable development. Yes, human, when we talk about the human rights, that we are being a human, we are bound to live in a society or in an environment where we have all the facilities, or where we have the where we could sustain in such a situation where climate are good, environment are pollution free. So we need to work on that manner also. Here we had a information. There are 30 articles in the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. There are maybe there are important 30 points that are declared by the United Nations on human rights point. There are a few articles about civil rights. Civil, when we talk about civil rights, with the right for the common people, we are the civilians, we are the common people of the society. Similarly, there are provisions or the arrangement, a kind of management of economic rights like right to work and equal pay for equal work. It is expected that member nations should extend civil rights to citizens. But just like the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights on 20th November 1959, a declaration of the rights of the child was proclaimed. As we had seen, there are so many problems that are created in the society for the women or the children. So there are so many new laws are enacted on the basis these things should be stopped in society. When we talk about the human right that are followed in our own country, in a country like India, every citizen are bound by the constitution, and as per the constitution we are providing with the all right. Imagine you are living in a safe country like India where you have a choice to vote. You have to the choice to move anywhere in the country. You can take up education on your own choice. Even you can change your own religion. Even nowadays we had seen people are demanding their needs in the front of government, or they can also criticize the government. You can't get such kind of right in other nation. People can do protest against the government if this that protest is a in a non-violence manner or in a peaceful manner. So think, imagine the human rights that we have in our own nation. In the Indian constitution, human rights have given the place of fundamental right. What are fundamental? Fundamental means the basic, important. So in our constitution, human rights consider fundamental, basic right. The constitution gives the responsibility of the protection of weaker sections like women and minorities to the government alongside that of the fundamental right. In 1993, the Human Rights Protection Act was passed, a law passed to protect the violation of human rights. If you already government had declared the human rights, if someone has restricting you, if someone has not giving you that right, so you can raise your voice, and critical action should be taken against that those society or the people or the member of that society. In 1993, the Human Rights Protection Act was passed. As per this law, the National Human Rights Commission and the State Human Rights Commission were established. The Human Rights Commission is responsible for taking cognizance. What is cognizance? Strict action of the complaint regarding violation of human rights. And if some way you are not getting the human rights or some kind of it's get violated, then strict action should be taken and take appropriate action regarding such violation. Okay. Next is secure environment. Yes, it is very much important in today's time. It's the responsibility of the every member of the world that we should protect our environment. We are changing the climatic situation or the global warming that hampered our natural habitat, and most of the we can see the extinction of species of different plants and animal that happens due to the change in the climatic situation. So secure environment, in the present time the concept of human rights had become broader, and it is increasingly being accepted that a secure environment is an important human right. Because if we have all the facility, we have all the technology, if our environment is not feasible, if our environment is not good, how we will survive, how we will breathe, how we will live? So it's our own responsibility to make our environment clean or eco-friendly. At the international level, the awareness and need of saving the environment was expressed in 1970. At many instances, at different seminars or different conferences, meeting, the question has been raised. Even at the global level, so many discussions has been carried out regarding the environment. The experts studying the environment believe that due to industrialization on large scale and the increasing need for energy has endangered the environment. Please underline this statement. As per the study, as per the expert, it has been found that due to the industrialization on a large scale and the need of energy, that hampered our environment the most. Yes, we can see the changing scenario. These activists celebrated the first Earth Day on 22nd April 1970, and on the basis of that, to create awareness among the people regarding the environment change, Earth Day has been celebrated on every 22nd April, and it was celebrated first time on 1970. So please underline this also. Earth Day celebrated on a global level on 22nd of April. Chemical fertilizers and pesticides used in agriculture. Nowadays, we can see the harmful fertilizers or the chemical pesticides are used at the agriculture, that also create the impact. Even the pesticides, even the sound pollution due to the vehicles, radiation from nuclear reactors, oil leakages or leakage of chemical gases make the environment unsafe and create various problems. So these are the causes of the environmental degradation. We have seen pollution, smoke everywhere due to the vehicles or the industrialization, even the nuclear test or so many nuclear reactors. So these things should be restricted. As a result of this awareness, the question of environmental safety began to be discussed at the international level. After the wave of globalization that started in 1990, the interdependence among nations increased, and therefore a need for nations to cooperate with each other emerged. Even after the globalization, after 1990, so many things has been changed. The most important thing that changed was the free flow of the market. So many restrictions has been removed, and that also helped the countries to come together to support each other to solve the problem of different countries. And on the basis of that, many countries came front and they supported their nearby countries, or most of the developed countries also started supporting to the underdeveloped or developing nations. So in this way, the collaboration also happened. The threat, the danger to the environment caused by pollution or by leakage of oil or gas does not remain restricted to one nation, because nowadays so many transportation, so many deals or trams or travel happens between the nations. So it is not an issue of any one country. It gives problem to most of the nations. Also, it affects our long term. Yes, it is very much important. These effects are long term. It gives result in for so many years that impacts our natural vegetation also. It become necessary for nation to act with each other's consent and cooperation in order to deal with this effect. Each other consents means each other approval. It is a teamwork where every nation should come together and they need to work accordingly. The visible effects of the decline of environment. Visible effect which can be easily visible. There are so many visible and invisible effects. You can mark this paragraph and please read it thrice, then you will come to know the problem. There are so many visible effects and so many invisible effects. So what are the visible effects which can we can see the change in the environment? The visible effects of the decline of environment. Our environment getting declined, getting degraded day by day, year by year. You have seen the temperature rising every year, or even you can say the irregularity of the rainfall, or even the lands, the fertility land get barren. These things has been seen by everyone. The visible effects of the decline of environment are extinction of species. What are extinction? The endangers. There are so many species are now destroyed. You can't able to see so many species of birds or animals or the plants. They are now edge of the end. The visible effects of the decline of environment are extinction of species of plants and animals, decrease in the fertility of soil, water shortage, fluctuation in the proportion of rainfall. What a fluctuation? Fluctuation means change. You can see the rainfall. Now we don't have a certainty any rainfall. Global warming is a biggest issue. Drying of the rivers and lake. Nowadays you can see most of the rivers and lakes are dried. Pollution of rivers and seas, incidence of newer diseases, acid rain. Acid rain became the biggest challenge. Now most of the territories or regions are facing the issues of acid rain. What exactly happens to acid rain? As we all know, rain happens because of the evaporation of the vapors, right? But now the waters are already polluted. This polluted water gets evaporated, and that results into the acid rain. In so many countries, in so many cities, it has been seen the cause effects of acid rain. Thinning of the ozone layer, it is the biggest issue. As we all know, there is a kind of covering between the earth and sun. If you know about the ozone layer filters the ultraviolet radiations of the sun. You can see, you can feel the warmness of the sun, right? The heat given by the sun, this heat is already filtered by the ozone layer. समझ रहे हो आप? आज जो हमारे पास इतनी गर्मी आ रही है सूरज की, ये फिल्टर होके आ रही है, और ये फिल्टर कौन करता है? ओजोन लेयर. ये एक लेयर है, ये इनविजिबल है, जो हमें दिखाई नहीं दे रहा है. ये हमारे और अर्थ और सन के बीच में है. द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट द ओजोन लेयर इज गेटिंग invisible day, sorry, it's already invisible, we can't see it, but it's getting removed. जो लेयर है वो दिन पे दिन खत्म हो रहा है. इफ यू इमेजिन फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर वो लेयर पहले इतना था, ठीक है, अब वो धीरे 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 क्या हो रहा है? थिन हो रहा है. आप इमेजिन करो अगर वो लेयर कंप्लीटली वैनिश हो जाएगा, तो जो सूरज की अल्ट्रावायलेट रेडिएशन से वो डायरेक्टली हमारे पर आएंगे. इससे कोई भी प्लांटेशन और वेजिटेशन हमारे अर्थ पर नहीं होगा, या हम लोग खुद जल जाएंगे. रिवर्स एंड लेक्स विल ड्राई अप क्विकली, right? We don't have proper rainfall, we don't have proper vegetation, so it's our responsibility. And why this ozone layer getting thinning up? Because of the pollution, the radiation we are emitting into the space, or we are emitting into the environment, that affects the ozone layer. So we need to control the pollution, we need to control the emission of radiation. So in this way we need to prevent the ozone layer. आज ओजोन लेयर एक अम्ब्रेला की तरह हमें काम कर रहा है. आप इमेजिन करो तेज धूप में अम्ब्रेला कैसे हमें प्रोटेक्ट करता है. अगर आज वो अम्ब्रेला दिन पे दिन क्या हो रहा है? खराब हो रहा है, पतला हो रहा है, और या फिर अगर वो वैनिश हो जाएगा, वो अम्ब्रेला ही खत्म हो जाएगा, तो आप सोचो आपको कितनी ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम होगी. कोई पेड़ नहीं बचेंगे बेटा, कहीं भी छाँव नहीं होगी, तो हम सर्वाइव कैसे करेंगे? फूड ग्रेन्स भी ग्रो नहीं हो पाएंगे. तो ये सब प्रॉब्लम आने वाला है फ्यूचर में. Even if some of the effects are restricted to particular nation, these problems reach global proportion due to their long-term effects. While some problems are inherently of a global nature, maybe few nations won't face this problem, but in future they also will face such kind of problem, because it's a global problem. It's a global scenario. Understood the critical issue of the global problem? So it's a duty of every citizen of this world, they should protect the environment. Understood? Clear? Please go through this topic, read it twice. This paragraph is very much important, that give you information about the problem that faced, or that will be the issue of our own environment. Understood? Clear? Okay, great. So these are the problems that are faced by the every nation. Okay, good.